Yeah. Well, anything I can just edit out, whatever. Hello everyone. This is Chiron's Cave. This is Aaron.
Hi, this is Susan.
We were just having a conversation and we weren't sure if we were going to record, so we're just
Yeah,
going to record and
yeah.
I'll edit whatever.
There was
Or
so much good stuff too,
I
but
know it's always the case.
but we were talking about your volume 2 of the way of the archetype, right?
Yeah, volume 2, the wave archetype, Chiron the Grice.
Yes. And just sort of just to kind of, I don't know, I feel compelled to recap part of what we were talking about, which I would probably summarize as saying that well, you were describing how he talks about the archetypal nature of the planetary combinations and their aspects to each other, right, in a natal chart, and that he has a lot of chart examples from well-known people that whose lives we can look at and really understand or see how that chart was expressed and how those archetypal combinations, aka the planets and in signs, and how they aspected each other, how that played out in the life or was expressed in the life.
And that's the thing too I've noticed with archetypal astrology is that they don't even, at least with Chiron the Grice, it's like he doesn't really even talk about the signs that much. It's just planetary relationships, the aspects between and mostly outer planets, which makes sense if you think about it, because archetypal astrology is going to be concerned with. So archetype is more of a collective, unconscious phenomenon. We can become aware of these things, right? But to be archetypal means like it's like our personalities come from the combination of the archetypes. We all have those archetypes. They affect all of us. And our personality is a result of the combination of these archetypes in relation to one another. That's what makes us all unique. How we relate to the archetypes.
Yes, yes. So do you think then, like you're describing how he's focused on the relationship by aspect of the outer planets, there's an emphasis on the aspect of the outer planets, speaking to the larger, right? More people are going to have the aspect of Saturn square Neptune. More people are going to have that than people who are going to have Mars with Neptune, conjunct Neptune squaring Saturn. So it brings a personal element, a very personalized element or influence to some people, but he's kind of saying, and you're pointing out too, how those larger relationships between the outer planets, those aspects are expressing for everybody, right?
Right. Well, and then the personal planets, right? That's going to personalize these complexes, right? Right. Because, like you say, a lot of people are going to have the generational stuff, like the 60s with what was it? Was it Pluto, Saturn,
Uranus,
Neptune, Uranus?
I
Yeah.
think.
Or was it
Now I'm wondering.
Neptune? Was it Neptune, Uranus? I think it was. Yeah, it was like Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, I think. In
Yeah,
the
okay.
60s.
That sounds
Is that
right.
right?
Yeah, I think so. I got to find my ephemeris. Okay, here it is. Yeah. I'll double check us, but yeah.
Yeah. So like, so in other words, these are very slow moving planets, right? So Pluto's what, 248 year orbit, and Neptune's like 168, and Uranus is 84 years. So like, if you're going to have an aspect with, say, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, you're going to have those three archetypes in conjunct relationship for like 7 years, almost, right? Because of Uranus, it's in the sign for 7 years. And then when you factor it, but then with the outer planets too, it's like half their time is spent retrograde, right? So they're constant. They stay together a lot longer because of retrograde motion.
Right, right.
And so
And
a lot of people, generation, that's why they say it's generational. So like a
mm,
Pluto, you know, Pluto Neptune is going to be like a 15-year long thing or something, 20-year long, you know, thing where they're going to be an orb. And so you're going to have generations of people, right? With that,
mhm,
with that
right,
archetypal complex.
right.
So, but what's going to distinguish you if you have is the personal planets, or if they're in relation,
Mhm.
right? What's their relationship, right? The inner planets and like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn to a certain extent.
Right, right.
If
Yeah.
they're in relation, if they're part of that complex, then it becomes personalized for you
Mhm.
beyond the collective, you know, relationship, your generational relationship to those archetypes.
Right, right. So with the when you say complex, or kind of how we're thinking about complex here, how would you describe that? Like, what would you describe in this context? How would you define maybe a complex?
So the interplay between archetypes create a complex. So like
Mm,
say Jupiter, Neptune,
mhm,
which I
mhm.
was just, I'll use that because that's what I was just reading about
Yeah,
in The Way of the Archetypes, Volume 2.
right.
So what is Jupiter, right? Expansiveness,
Mhm,
optimism,
mhm,
good luck to a certain extent,
mhm,
long journeys,
mhm,
foreign culture, right? And then you combine that with Neptune, which is going to be, you know, mysticism, spirituality, dissolution of ego and limits and barriers, merging with source. So you combine those two, and that creates a complex.
mhm.
Together, those two things create, and I guess because these are outer planet, well,
It's like a societal uh complex.
yeah, but the
It's
energies, I mean, like, because with the energies of the outer planets, because they're slower, right? So that's like why with transits, we don't, with transits, um, well, okay, so you can see this with the best way to look at this, the difference between secondary progressions and transits, right?
mm,
So like secondary progressions, so for people who don't know, it's a technique that's broadly used in astrology. And so what it means is so the day you're born, you just count one day. It's one day for a year of planetary motion. So Mercury's travel in one day is going to equal a full year.
mhm,
So then Venus, same thing, right? But you stop with secondary progressions at pretty much Jupiter, right? Because you know Jupiter's motion, right? Because Jupiter's 12-year orbit.
mhm, mhm,
So in a day, Jupiter's not going to move much. So that means in a year, in secondary progression, it's not going to move much. So then what you do look at, start with Jupiter, is with transits, though, right
mm,
now, because
mhm,
you don't really look
mhm.
so much at transits at the fast moving stuff,
That's a
right?
good point. Yeah.
Because you know, with transits, then their speed, you know, matters currently. The changes that happen with the outer planets is like daily because their speed is slow. So
Mhm,
it's like they have time to develop energetically where they're at. Whereas
mhm.
something like the moon's just whipping around, right? You see the moon
Right. On the outs,
here?
yeah, can you point to it? Yeah.
Yeah. So see
On the
how
outer side.
there's this um
T
what is that?
20,
11, it's
let's see.
11 degrees to 23 degrees Scorpio.
Okay. Yeah.
So 12, so yeah, 12 degrees, whereas
Mhm.
everything else by progression, you just, there's like a spot, they're located in a place.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
at a degree. But the
Right.
moon, you can't, with secondary progressions, the moon has a 12-degree span for that particular year. So the moon has 12 degrees in secondary progressions for a year.
Okay. So
Whereas
it's a
all the other planets just have, they're at a degree. And it's
right.
because the moon is the fastest moving thing.
Right, right. Yeah. So that's so funny. It's like a case of where we are coming at it from completely opposite angles. So it's like I knew you were right. I just was like, wait, but it's a degree per month. But you're saying for a year it moves 12 degrees, so it's a degree
in
per
secondary
month.
progressions.
Yeah, in secondary
Yeah.
progressions. Yeah, year per month, so it moves 12 degrees per year. And when you're charting out like the secondary progressions of the year ahead, nothing else moves in that
No.
year except for by a degree per year, right? Like roughly.
But to the broader point I was making, the
Mhm.
between like basically inner outer planets, right? Is that
Mhm.
so in that if you're looking at secondary progressions,
Uh-huh.
you're not looking at Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto for
Right.
secondary progressions
Right.
because they don't move.
Right.
They don't move enough. Like they're
Right.
moving seconds. Like
Yes.
Pluto's moving like a couple seconds
Right.
a
Right.
day.
Although what you might do, and you tell me what you think here, but the obviously the progressions of the moon and the aspects that the moon makes to any of the other planets, both the natal chart, primarily the natal chart, but as an overlay or another layer element, the progress chart itself. But the aspect that the moon makes, again, the moon is kind of that trigger point or that marker. So it is making relationships to the other planets because it's so fast moving. So that creates meaning for interpreting or understanding what might unfold energetically or what's happening internally, especially with the progress chart, like with the progression of the emotional nature or inner state of the
Yeah, you
needs
have
of the.
12 degrees approximately, 12, 13 degrees
Mhm.
per year of
Yeah.
secondary progressed like moon.
And that translates into lived experience, but it may not be an outer experience, particularly with regards to the moon, although it could be. It could
You
absolutely
mean
be.
by event, like outer as in events?
Yeah, like if, for example, your progressed moon is in Scorpio and it's moving or has been moving from 11 degrees of Scorpio to 23 degrees of Scorpio, that time frame of how your natal moon is progressing and how that progressed moon is a continuation or a development of the natal aspects of your lunar inner anima, needs, emotional, like everything that the moon signifies, that development within the sign of Scorpio has its own expressed energy in your life, both inner but also potentially outer. It could involve significant emotional events that occur in a Scorpio like way, or it
Uh-huh.
could just involve you going deeply into Scorpio related themes in your emotional inner world, right?
Yeah, in my case, in the sixth house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Of
but then you wouldn't look at the moon. So then to kind of
mm-hmm.
help
Mm-hmm.
maybe again people who don't really understand all this with like the transiting moon now,
Uh-huh.
right? Because it is the fastest moving planet. It's in astrology, it's called a planet,
Right.
even though
And
it's not a planet. It's in astrology, it's a planet, and it's
right.
the fastest moving one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of everything in the chart outside of primary motion, which is Earth's rotational speed. The
Right.
next fastest thing is the moon, and
And to give
go,
an example, just to give, because to clarify, because I see what I know what you're saying. Like right now, today, the transiting moon, which is very different than the progress moon,
mm-hmm.
transiting moon just entered Taurus at 0 degrees. So that's where the transiting moon is right now. And if you ever want to know what the transiting moon is doing or how it's affecting your chart, you need to kind of know where the current planets are. And then, so that's separate. But yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is that like for the transiting moon, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's so fast that it's like it's in a sign for 2.5 days, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's so fast that you wouldn't look at the transiting moon. It's nothing more than, and even as a trigger, the
Mm-hmm.
moon's not even a whole lot even as a trigger because it's so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Mm-hmm.
talk about like the slower, like the slower inner personal planets. So like Mercury, Venus, Mars, those are triggers. Like they'll trigger things, but by transit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they're fast, but they're slow enough to have an effect on something Whereas the moon is just whips right past it. So but you wouldn't look at the moon as a transiting thing. Really, it's just it's a daily mood thing, but it's so fast that it doesn't have time to develop really.
So I will push back a little bit on that as a perspective to to give another perspective on it,
Okay.
and I'll give you an example, right? And so a couple days ago, I got a call back from the doctor because I had blood work done, right? And Saturn and Neptune are at 1 degrees Aries, sitting right inside of my 6th house now, right? So, I got a call from the doctor. I got a call from the doctor at exactly the time that the transiting moon in Aries was conjoined that Saturn Neptune. And the information was the results of my test. So the blood work. And there was some information that was Saturn, Neptune, 6th house relevant. Okay. I attributed that to, now whether it's right or not, or there is a whole kind of theory around or belief by some astrologers that the moon can be a trigger in that way, where it does time. It is the messenger, like we talked about before, where it's like, okay, but the primary event is a Saturn Neptune kind of effect from that bigger transit. So it's just
bringing a
something
message.
bring in a message. So it kind of like swoops in, and
Yeah.
it had its like activation of that energy in the 6th. So I think it can work like that. Certainly, it doesn't always. And I would agree with you that it is a more characteristically like tone of the general of the energy. In other words, Taurus, this moon moving into Taurus, we're probably going to feel more Tauresian with our like way of, maybe feeling or toning into the subtle energies, and then, kind of characteristically around the zodiac like that.
I'm just saying, but as soon as you tune in, it's in Gemini now. That's what I'm saying. It's like, and then it's like, try to catch the moon. As soon as you tune in, then it's like, now it's, moved on to Cancer. It's just,
right.
And so contrast to kind of, to point to what I was saying. So now contrast, not the moon hitting that Saturn Neptune. Saturn Neptune. Not the moon hitting Saturn Neptune, but now say it's transiting Mars hitting that Saturn Neptune. Yeah. That's going to be a bigger deal.
Yes.
In a triggering way, and it's going to trigger something bigger than the moon. That's my point.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that the moon doesn't count or doesn't matter at all. I'm not saying that.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it matters more than anything. It's the thing that matters most. It's just when it comes to transits, it's really maybe delivers message. It's connecting messages, kind of like it's like the telephone line to the planets.
Right. It's not causing the event, it's carrying the connective tissue. It's not the narrative that's unfolding, it's the connective messenger within the narrative. So I think that's a really important and interesting kind of distinction that we're making, actually, because it's causing me to think about it a little differently too. That
okay, cool.
Yeah. So
that's what I do.
Yeah.
As a theoretical astrologer.
Right. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Take this thing. It might blow up, but like, what do you think this is?
Right. That's good though. A curiosity, it can kill the cat, or it can like create a really cool, new paradigm.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why our interplay works so well too. Because so often I'm just like, I don't know. It's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just that I don't have experience with a lot of this stuff. It's just theoretical, right? For me. I'm thinking about it a lot and reading about this stuff a lot and taking what I learn about it, but I haven't really applied it in a consulting astrological way, other than that in my own life.
Right. Yeah.
I apply these things that I read, and then the only testing ground really that I have is just my chart and how I relate to these things.
Right. Yeah.
And that's really subjective, and it's anecdotal, and it's and the problem with that is, at least the wisdom of that why you shouldn't try to learn astrology that in that way, even though we all do it, is because you're biased.
Mm.
You can't see your own bias.
Mm.
So that bias is going to color what you take to be the truth about how this stuff works. But then if you apply it like you do to a bunch of people's lives on a daily basis, then like you have more experience in how they actually manifest in more of a broad way.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say that then you have it's that third house. It's like what Frank was talking about, the difference between the third and the ninth house,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
With the third house being like the boots on the ground, daily, how you get things done. And then the ninth house being like the high tower, priestly,
Mm.
uh, theoretical almost framework.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't pretend to know a lot about human design. So I don't bring this up to try to educate about human design at all. But I am aware of there's a channel in human design. It's the 6447 for anybody that follows human design. And it's known as the channel of abstraction. So, and if you do like chart overlays in human design, and this is I think certainly like a parallel to what you're describing within the astrology. And I know astrology factors in. I don't know the formulaic element. A lot factors into like the human design, but just I'm just more speaking to this from like it's an interesting kind of conceptual framework that it puts this into because it's called the channel of abstraction and it connects the head center with the ajna center. So it's like it would be like your top two centers, and it represents deep mental processes from conceptualizing abstract ideas to then understanding them on a practical level. So that's like really ninth, third house, right? Um, and so when you have a connected channel, there's two different like for the two to both be activated, that's when you get like a flow of energy where you can take complex concepts and then be able to take these kind of unique abstracts which you kind of have and connect them in a way that's going to make sense for the kind of the common man, right? Or the common brain. And what I think is interesting about the human design that between you and I is that you have the head center, you have 64, which is like the high, like abstract and complex concepts. And then my ajna center is activated. So it kind of creates that connection between where you can take information from a nonlinear into more of a linear to come up with insights and flashes of intuition that you can't really get through like logical deduction. And it's in a way I kind of think of it like it's magical in a way, right? Like to be able to reach into those places that you're like, I just pulled this from somewhere in the ether or like
Yeah.
from something abstract. I don't really know what is this, and it's like, oh, okay, boop, 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 like that turns into this more kind of tangible concept that can create meaning and ways of understanding information in a way that's going to be like useful and effective or impactful. So I think that's just it's very third ninth house as well, like you're saying.
Yeah, I bring it. I like come floating down with this information and give it to you, and then you earth it.
Try to, yeah.
Yeah,
Try to.
or like this is nonsense. Like
Yeah.
get this out of here.
Or like
Oh, I don't know. It seems like a good
uh.
idea. I don't know.
But
That's why
yeah,
I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I
but you
really
have
don't
to
know.
you have to be willing to not know. That's when we were talking about because in that space of like not knowing, that's when, to me anyway, like true knowledge or wisdom can then reveal itself, right? And like if we know it all, it's almost like if I over prepare for something, even for our conversations, then I get really attached to what I know or what I think I know and what I'm gonna like share because I've got to like show or share what I know. But then so much can get lost, right? Have you experienced that at all? Like when you're not feeling that pressure to know that it's, I don't know, it's easier or is somehow to naturally like flow with conversation and knowledge. And I mean, it's a bit of a paradox because in order to be able to even talk about astrology or anything else for that matter, we do have to know. But there's something very like inspirational and inspired that can come through when I'm not as attached to what I'm supposed to know. Do you know? So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
I don't know, but I do know that when we like talk about things,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it seems like there's it's it goes places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And places that right, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um so
Right. Yeah.
uh so like I guess the past couple days, few days or so, I've been sort of in like an existential crisis place
Mm.
with like astrology.
Uh-huh.
It happens, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it's just my nature, I think, because I have to maintain that skeptical edge. I think that's the Uranus um principle in my personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't be nailed down somewhere. I guess I need to be free to move in the air with
Mm-hmm.
ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime if I get somewhere and it's like written in stone, it's almost like I'm repulsed by it in a way. Does that make sense?
Interesting. That's a really interesting description. Yeah, it does make sense.
But at the same time, that's what I'm after. So it's
Uh-huh.
contradictory, and that's Aquarian. I mean, that's the Aquarian nature. I like is we're contradictory in that way. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we want to know the truth, but as soon as we find it, it's like, uh,
Yeah.
I need to find another truth now. It's like, but then again, in my case, it could be, the Gemini ascendant mixed with the Aquarian Sun Mercury
Mm-hmm.
makes
Mm-hmm.
for it's very poor like
Mm-hmm.
I've my personality. It's very, very much like the whole um refusal to grow up in a way, but also that's the Saturn, right? That's like pushes back against that. And in my psyche, that's the constant battle is between the poor impulses. That's Puer. I'm saying that correctly, right?
Yeah.
Poor,
Mm-hmm.
Puella is the
Mm-hmm.
female version, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the Peter Pan complex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, simply to get the idea across, like what the
Yes.
poor is. It's like Peter Pan, right?
Right.
This youthful spirit that doesn't want to be pinned down to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Saturn is the opposite in a lot of ways of that, where Saturn's like very much wants to
The
pin you
Synex.
down and then put you,
Synex.
yeah,
Right.
pin you down and then put you in a box,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then tell you that you have to spend all your time making these walls thicker and stronger.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
poor is like, you're not putting me in a box, and
Yeah.
flits away,
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, like that's the battle in my own psyche is between those two things because I have a pretty strong Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
and then becoming a father forces me to have to be that because it's like it forces you into that responsibility, And Jordan Peterson's right with the whole responsibility trip. His focus and emphasis so much is on responsibility and that being what brings meaning to us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if you don't have responsibility, then you're like going to live a meaningless life. And I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. But it's very cynics.
So could I just give a really an example that I was just writing a letter to my niece who's about to go off to college. And so my sister asked me to write a letter to her. She's 18. And what came out as I was writing was that when I left and I was terrified, I was overwhelmed when I first left. But as I got there, what happened for me is that I started to make choices that I was responsible for, right? And that made me more, it fortified, it strengthened me as a person because I was now responsible for whatever the choices were that I made. I had to live with those consequences. And, as I mentioned, I made a couple of choices that were really painful. The consequences of those choices were really painful, but I learned from those as much as I did from the ones that were easy, that didn't have those painful consequences. And so I wasn't saying like, hey, go ahead and party it up, be irresponsible, make bad decisions. My sister would kill me if she saw that, right? But I think there is that sense of when we are responsible for ourselves, or when we take responsibility for our lives, which is something that the per doesn't want to do, then we are kind of acknowledging or willing to live in the material confines of whatever reality is constructed from those choices. And that's very sobering and very depressing in a way. But at the same time, and having to follow through on the commitments or the actions that were very exciting to the pure, right? When they were getting the inspiration and the like the high of whatever that like majesty or magical energy was. So I don't know. I relate a lot to what you're saying though, as far as like that, but it gives us a stronger sense of ourself. And then life does take on more meaning. That was when my life started to become meaningful because it was me creating that life and nobody else. And I could, that boundary between like self and family or self and whatever else is like, it was more clear to me. And I found myself through that responsibility. That's like a really kind of trite example, but one that I think a rite of passage that in some way we all go through, and life starts to get really real for us.
Well, yeah, and that would be the closing Saturn square to
Mm.
itself, right? 21. So it's a rite of passage in it's like the final preparation for becoming an adult, right?
Yeah.
Like you go out on your own and then you enter the academy or do whatever, training you're going to need to do for your 10th house, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being what you're going to contribute to the
Yeah.
human experience or to
So, but
society.
yeah. So I'm curious with the existential kind of thing that you've gone through
Mm-hmm.
the past couple days, how do you want to say anything more about that? I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I've been trying to figure out what it is and like what's causing it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being an astrologer, I'm always like open to look at what's going on astrologically
Mm-hmm.
for an example or
Mm-hmm.
for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But when
Insight.
but when it's astrology that you're feeling challenged, that you're challenging, it's like kind of like I don't want to. It's like I don't want astrology to answer the question.
I don't
I
need
don't,
astrology's help right now. My problem is
yeah,
astrology. I don't need astrology to
right.
help me figure out astrology.
So, but why? Like, what is it? So, if I look at the astrology, really the only thing I've noticed is Mars just ingressed into Libra.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this morning I was kind of like, well, I think maybe I'm just pretty sensitive to Mars, to feeling Mars, which in a way, even before all astrology, I knew like one emotion I can feel is like anger and rage.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel that in spades, easy. Frustration for me, frustration easily trips into like anger and rage.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem feeling that. Well, I have an Aryan moon. So, right. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like that. Well, wouldn't you expect an Aries moon is going to give you a hot temper,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? The moon doesn't, it seems in a way, it's like the moon doesn't want to be in fire, wants to be in water. That's why its domicile is Cancer,
Mm-hmm.
in water,
Mm-hmm.
not fire. And why it's in fall in Scorpio, because that's like the fire water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So
same
so yeah.
With Mars being fall in Libra, it's out of elementally.
Well, also that's where my Pluto is.
Mm-hmm.
And my Pluto, I'm dealing with the Pluto conjunct Sun
Mm-hmm.
and Mercury. So Pluto for me for the last 2 years has been a big deal. Ever since Pluto ingressed into Aquarius, it's been on my sun and Mercury, and also co-present, my K2 and also MC. So that's a big deal for me. Aquarius is a big place for me because of all that. So then now Mars, right, the lesser malefic, is now co-present by transit with my natal Pluto. So now it's like, and also, right, kind of trining my ascendant.
Yeah.
Because my ascendant is Gemini. So it's like, it may be, that's all I've got as far as like,
Yeah.
well,
Well,
there is another element, but go ahead.
oh, what do you want to tell?
I was
Do you
just
want
going to talk about the series, what's going on with
to?
series. I was looking at that too. So.
Oh, and so Mars will actually oppose. I mean, Ceres is still in Aries, but it will oppose your natal and anybody that has natal Ceres in Aries.
Series and
Mars,
Aries. Yeah, I was
Mars
playing with
will.
that.
It's like a little rhyme, but Mars will oppose that, and potentially, that could be an energetic.
Well,
Felt.
because Mars rules Aries.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's opposing its own rulership in fall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that wouldn't be fall. That would be detriment.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mars is in fall in Cancer.
Right. Okay.
Detriment in Libra. Opposite
Gotcha.
its rulership, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, but it has a relation either way. Like it has a relation to both. And so I have a Ceres moon conjunction in Aries.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense that I would be even more sensitive to Mars, right?
Yeah.
Because the moon is that, right? Sensitivity to emotions.
Yeah, and Jupiter's been squaring your moon. So that exacerbates and kind of grows and expands and maybe broadens what the natal moon energy is all about anyway. Both for good and for like volatility, fire energy, you know?
Yeah, it's like if Mars ain't happy, I ain't happy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, kind of
Yeah.
thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. Because then my moon Ceres ain't happy.
Yeah. And the Jupiter Venus conjunction in Cancer this week, there's been all kinds of buzz about how it's the best week of the year. And last week was like the worst week of the year because we had, we talked a little bit about that last time with like some of the aspects that were happening by transiting planets. And so Venus and Jupiter coming together in Cancer is like, I don't know. That's I don't know if you've felt or noticed anything, but it's been an intense week for me. It's been really intense, and I kind of feel. Oh, anyway, I think it's interesting that conjunction is also squaring your natal moon by about 5 degrees because like your natal moon's like nine Aries,
Almost 10, yeah. It's like
almost 10.
9.7, so like 9.
Yeah.
What's that? What's 7 times 6 is
42. No, is that right?
7 times 7. Yeah, that's right. Because 7 times 7 is 49. So my moon's like 40. I forgot again. 42. Yeah.
42. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So that's square. That's been exact. Like I think of Jupiter squares. They say, right. I don't know what you've read about them, but they're not bad. It's hard for a Jupiter square to really I could go into that too, but Jupiter, it doesn't get the same bad reputation when it squares your natal placements as say a Saturn square or Mars square, but because it's so benevolent, Jupiter, can be a bit kinder in the way it's experienced. But
isn't it just kind of provides like over optimism? Like it can bring that element into something, like give you too much optimism when you shouldn't have as much optimism at that time, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it can bring too much of whatever planet it's aspecting. So if it's
too much expansive,
too much
too expansive,
right? If it's the moon, too much emotion, just too much. It's
Yeah.
of what you already natally have, or too much Venus. It's like overindulgence, overspending. Maybe you have the money to do it, but you're just doing too much of it. It's not going to like
Yeah.
devastate you financially.
Well,
So,
moderation, right? That's the wisdom of moderation.
right, right.
Too much
Why
of a good thing is a bad thing.
Right. And why we need Saturn to kind of pull the reins in on what Jupiter is all, inclined to do. So, um,
Yeah, so as far as like astrologically, I would say that kind of explains maybe what I've got going on. Because I just had the series return. And what I realized a couple days ago is that it's not just a one and done. Ceres is now retrograde, and it's going to retrograde all the way back to the beginning of Aries. So it's going to cross. So that it's an ongoing Ceres return as well as moon conjunction for me, because it's crossing back over Ceres' natal placement, and then it's going to hit the moon again. But then it's going to turn again and then hit them both again on its way. So it's like an ongoing, it's like a year long,
long
not a
term.
year, not quite a year. It's probably like, I don't know, 6 months or something long thing for me. And then so that then you throw in now Mars, which I haven't looked at, I think by the time Mars is like opposing.
Your natal or transiting?
Well, Mars is
Maybe.
in a sign for 2 months, right?
Yeah. So it'll be there till September 26th or 23rd. It'll go
Yeah, so
into
there's going to
Scorpio.
come a point for me where it's going to be like Ceres is going to be like hanging out between natal Ceres and Moon, so conjunct both, and then here Mars is going to come and oppose it.
Yeah. So what do you make of that in terms of, I'm just looking it up now to see like when Mars will get to 9 degrees, and it looks like August 22nd, it'll oppose the moon at 9 degrees Aries. So by transit, it'll aspect your natal moon. But what do you make of that with Ceres involved?
Well, so I started looking at, okay, well, I was looking for clues. What does this series business, what does it mean for me based on, well, I've already had the return. I've already had it conjunct the moon and then the return here recently. Well, the series return happened while I was at Firefly. And it happened on day 2, which was like the big day for me because that was my second day of class, and it was like packed and went really well, and it was like everybody made a really awesome basket, and of course it was all women. The day before, there was one man was in the class, but he was volunteering at Firefly doing a work trade, so his day 2 of my class he couldn't attend, so it was all women the second day. And I was just thinking about, well, so people who don't know, Ceres is the asteroid goddess, the asteroid Ceres, and it's actually a planetoid, considered a planetoid actually, because it's like 960 miles or something like that in diameter. So it's pretty big. It's the biggest asteroid, and it was discovered before before Neptune. It was discovered in like 1801, something like that. But as an astrological symbol, it's like, think Earth goddess Gaia. It's Demeter or Demeter in Greek myth. So, for me, what Ceres means is like Gaia, and so, and also that it's conjunct my natal moon is another layer of the feminine, like, because nurturing children are associated with the moon too, home, and like what I'm seeing kind of emerging with that is like my role with what I'm doing with basketry and kudzu and bamboo, and because that's very earthy, and teaching people and kids especially, because also during the, oh man, I wish I had brought my notebook in here. I had when Ceres conjuncted the moon, I believe the first time recently, I was teaching children at Hendrix Elementary School. I was teaching children. We were doing the fin buoy games. So I was Coach Aaron, basically.
Right.
for these like field day type challenges that we were doing with
Very Aries
featuring
11th
bamboo.
house kind of stuff. Yeah. And the bamboo too, like the baskets in the community. So how does that affect, or how does that impact your like existential thoughts around astrology? Is it
Right. I don't know.
Mhm,
Other than like I said, the only place I've got with that is like with Mars ingressing into Libra, bringing
mhm,
that feeling to me because it's opposing Ceres moon by whole sign right now.
right.
And I feel like in when a planet, that's what's I like looking at aspects by whole sign because as in a planet in a sign is going to be in relation to planets in like so a planet in Aries is going to be trying to everything in Leo
Mhm,
and Sagittarius.
mhm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, the orb doesn't have to be real tight. Looking at whole sign trine, right? Or whole sign square, right? Like you're looking at it's just by what's in a sign and then everything in the sign that relates to say a square aspect and so signs and so 90-degree aspect. So Aries, Cancer. If you have anything in Aries and anything in Cancer, those things, no matter where they're at in those signs, they're square by whole sign, right? The
Right.
energy. And so when a planet ingresses into a new sign, it changes the energetic. The energy changes, I feel like.
Right. So Ceres and Aries, and kind of the themes you're talking about. I was just going to read this little section from Demetra George's Asteroid Goddesses about
Mm-hmm.
Ceres and Aries.
Okay.
These people, so anybody that has this, identify nurturance with autonomy and being granted independence. In turn, the Ceres and Aries individual nurtures others through promoting their self determination and self sufficiency. To feel truly loved,
Hmm.
this person must receive these experiences from his or her significant others. Pathology or imbalance can occur when the child feels either dominated by the nurturer or pushed toward autonomy before he or she is ready to take on that responsibility. And it's the example it gives is Janis Joplin, who had Ceres and Aries in the first house. She nurtured the youth culture through providing them with a symbol of freedom. So, you can look up what sign you have that in, but like you mentioned, Gaia or the energy of Earth, cycles of growth. I'm just kind of giving some keywords,
I think
but
a good one is the Empress from the
yes,
tarot.
yes.
Anyone who's seen knows that image. That's Ceres.
Yes. And it can also, George mentions that it's astrologically, it describes the way, this is a quote, we face issues of self worth and self esteem, relationships to our parents and children, attachment, dependency, loss, separation, rejection, grief, sharing, work, and productivity. So basically all of life. Um, so, but it's really the style of nurturing, how you nurture others or how you are nurtured, and the place in what house it falls in, if you want to go that route. It shows where we most, she says, we can readily experience the need to give and receive nurturing. So it's the types of experiences that are going to foster the feeling of self-love and self-acceptance, or self-rejection and critical attitudes. So kind of archetypically, that's Ceres, but then specifically a little more Ceres and Aries. And that's where Ceres is right now too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So has your thoughts around that been because you have questions or are reflecting on the work you're doing in that 11th house way that you're describing?
So I think it's like it's that what I'm doing with basketry
Mm-hmm.
is becoming dominant, which Carolina Bamboo, the business that I started,
Mm-hmm.
so it's already a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it already has claim to what I'm doing in my
Mm-hmm.
life
Mm-hmm.
in that way.
It's your productivity. You're being very productive. That's very like an area that you're being very productive in your life, like
Oh yeah.
in a series kind of way. Yeah.
Well, and that really ramped up when Mars hit Virgo
Oh yeah, yeah.
because I have Jupiter, Mars.
Yeah. And
Saturn and Virgo.
Yeah, Earth and Virgo is so symbolic of all of that. Yeah.
Right. It's like I had to be out there like stripping kudzu and splitting bamboo and making baskets. Like I couldn't. I had to.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's like it's the pull between that and then astrology and what I'm like wanting to do. Which this will be a good time to introduce this.
Yeah.
I got the results back for ESAR, and it turns out that I failed the exam by 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I made it. It was a 65, and I needed a 70.
Mm.
And that's been really difficult for me because one, I don't fail exams ever, and two, I felt instantly like because what I was failed, it's like what I failed was the subjective essay chart delineation part, the part where the person who was grading it decided whether or not my interpretation was valid or not, and I got really crappy score for that, and I thought I killed it. I was like, I did an awesome job with that, and so it's been difficult for me to like accept that. And so I think that really probably explains where I'm at with astrology. It's just my reaction to that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I expected that I thought I probably would barely pass, but I felt like I definitely passed. But I also ran out of time and I had one more essay question left there were two, and Stephen King's chart was one. I spent too much time on it and didn't get to the second one because when I got to it, I had 10 minutes left. And like, if you look at a chart and you're going to answer questions about a chart, 10 minutes is not like, maybe you probably could look at a chart like, and then just start spitting stuff out about it. Like, cause you've been doing it so long, but for me, I need like 10 minutes at least just to get my sea legs, in this chart.
Yeah.
Right. Just get my bearings on what's going on with the big picture stuff. Like I can look at the primal triad and be like, okay, I get a lot of information there. Right. But in this level of interpretation, you need more than just, moon, sun, ascendant.
Yeah. Well, and I want to just mention too, that this is arguably the CAP exam is arguably the most difficult or one of the most difficult astrological exams to test proficiency in that exists or has existed on an international or like organizational scale. Right. So it's a really tough exam in general, but yeah,
6 hours.
Yeah.
And it's 360 questions. Right. So it works out to a minute per question.
Right.
And the thing is the multiple choice, true, false, the other two sections I did well on.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was just the interpretive subjective. So I had the feeling that I was failed, not that I failed the exam, but that I was failed by the grader. And so I had a lot of anger and it was difficult.
And was the grader CAPISAR certified?
Well,
we don't know, right? You don't know?
I don't know.
And it doesn't, however that qualification is set up to assess, I imagine the questions would, it's been a long time since I've taken it, but I imagine if it were me and that had been me, I would have a lot of questions about well, and something that I think like you would absolutely be, it would be completely understandable to follow up to get more clarity because I've talked to you enough to know, I know. I want to hear what your thoughts are about that. But I've talked to you enough to know that your analysis, it's not beginner level. Your ability to synthesize and integrate is not beginner level. So I know there were other factors like time and, but from what you describe on the Stephen King chart and all of that, it's interesting. I would certainly want more information about like how it was graded, but
Right. Which I would love to have too.
Yeah.
But I'm also just like,
it's part of
it's still kind of real raw though, maybe too, for me. And because I have the two things that I'm doing, one's a business already. And it's like, so then I think my natural thing is like, okay, that's a sign. I'm going to go this way now. But it's like I told you, like the real test is what I do now. And before I even got the results, I had decided kind of like, well, I'm not really trying to be a consulting astrologer anyway. And like, if you're not going to be a consulting astrologer, then do you really need to be certified? And so yeah, that's been difficult. And I think honestly, I'm probably still trying to live with that
Uh-huh.
because yeah, the thing with like, oh, I need to contact and be like, hey, you know,
I need a
can you
breakdown.
explain this? Because
Yeah.
I don't agree. But it's like, then
Right.
the other part of me is like, yeah, everyone who fails doesn't agree. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to be that guy, but also like, I know like I would disagree obviously with the dude that graded my, because a 5%, I was 5% away from passing the exam. All right.
Yeah.
And it was like 110 points available for these 2 essay questions.
Right.
And I completely thoroughly answered the first one and got 10 points.
Right.
So it's like he obviously disagreed with my analysis. Had to have. Because all I needed was 5%. I mean, I could have passed that exam just on the one essay question. If I had been, if I had gotten a charitable reading and grading on that, I would have passed.
Yeah.
So I disagree, obviously, because I feel like my interpretation was good. I felt really good about it.
Right. Yeah.
And I felt like I should have made an A on that one question. I should have got all the points available, at least a B, which would have passed me on the exam.
Right.
And
Which
he
and
failed me. He failed me on
right.
that.
Yeah. So you like, because the breakdown of how the points work, that if you had received more points on that essay, it would have been, you would have passed the
Yes.
whole exam. And, it's interesting, uh, that, that is kind of the way, and, just even your personal processing of the situation and kind of how you decide to navigate from here. It's really interesting to me because I think it's very relatable that when something like that happens, that is an external, we were talking about like external confirmation or credentialing with astrology. How does that influence or impact how we practice, what we practice, where we go, who we practice with? And I would imagine that a lot of astrologers who have written the books that you're reading that are academic astrology books, they, for whatever reason, not because they couldn't have passed it or whatever, but they didn't even take or attempt the CAP exam. And with my encouragement, which because I went the CAP route and was involved with ESAR and served on the ESAR board and everything, it was like the respect for that as a credentialing organization that's been around since 1968. It's like that's been kind of a gold star, not the only gold star, but it's definitely like a strong power of credentialing. So I encouraged you to do it. I encouraged you to jump in the deep end, take the hardest test, because I've talked to you and I know what your intelligence level is. I know how much you've read. I mean, just in our conversations, I knew that you'd probably, do really well. But I think like the fact that a lot of the astrologers that we're both, we both read, we both respect, their work, the body of their work, what they've contributed. A lot of those astrologers are not CAPUSAR certified. And yet you find yourself kind of at this point where it's like, okay, this was definitely like I imagine a big knock to your expectations at the very least about how you were going to move forward within a like astrological context or community context. And now the landscape has changed, but nothing about your intellectual or your interest in astrology underneath all of that has changed. Or maybe it has. I mean, but if it's like trying to process, okay, well, who am I as a professional and how does that change now? Because my bamboo business is doing really great. And I'm like, all of this is working and happening and growing. And that's the natural, direction of things. I imagine there's some probably conflict within you about, well, what do I keep investing in then? What am I putting my time and energy into, and why? Is that kind of what have you been reflecting on those kinds of questions?
Yeah, I think so. And
Mhm.
because the whole thing is that my 10th house is lighting up with my business, with what I do with basketry and plant
Mhm.
fibers, right? Like, for instance, the local art museum is going to have me teaching a basket class there. Like,
Mhm.
that's a big 10th house signal,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So whereas the signal for astrology is you don't meet the threshold of knowledge to be a professional. So it's like, how could you not, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How could you
Yeah.
not, like, like, I look for synchronicity, and like for me, it's like, whoa, shit, that's a pretty big signal that professionally, in the one hand, my exalted Venus in Pisces has got me like my face literally poster child for basket making teacher,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
in my area of
Right.
influence, right? Like geographically.
Yeah.
And and it's a unique thing that I'm doing that, like, even in basketry, like with bamboo, like in America, people just don't,
It's very
nobody,
specialized.
I just
Uh-huh.
happened to meet Keiji Oshima and happened to apprentice with him and learn the skill that nobody, hardly anybody, I know one other person
Mhm.
who is splitting bamboo, and he's in Virginia, and he's just like a renegade. His
Yeah.
father was a basket maker. I don't know too much about him, but his father was a
Yeah.
basket maker, and he grew up making baskets, and then he just knows fiber, and he just decided, we have a mutual friend, and I gave this mutual friend uh, a basket that I'd made, and then this guy saw it and was like, "Oh shit, I can do that." So he's like tackled bamboo, and he's doing like a renegade thing, right?
Mhm.
And but it's not. I have claim to the lineage, the transmission, cultural transmission via a master of the craft
Mhm.
and apprenticing with him.
Right.
So there's a sharpened edge there that I have, that
Yeah.
is it's a level of refinement specifically with bamboo, and then kudzu too, because I met another local master of kudzu, Nancy Basket, and she put the kudzu in my hand and like activated kudzu, and then it was like bamboo kudzu, and then yin yang, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm putting these two things together, and they just
Mhm.
the kubu basket's born, and this thing that I created,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
my own creation, a kubu basket. Nobody showed me that. And now I'm teaching people how, and like I'm getting all this interest in it because of what I'm doing professionally. People are like, wow, this is unique. It's interesting.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
I'm really good at it, and I'm getting societal recognition for that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because I think like that's amazing. That's really incredible. I think I mean you clearly have a passion and a calling for, it seems, that direction, you know? And I am definitely idealistic. I believe that we really have to follow our passion, and if we follow our passion, I know that that's, not all there is to life. And we have to put food on the table, but that when we follow what we're passionate about, and that it's never an either or thing. It doesn't have to be. It might have to be a time thing. It might have to be a time boundaries thing, but I am less inclined to like completely part ways with anything in my life that I feel like that scorpionic obsessive passion for. And like the thing that kept me in astrology, and it's not like I've ever always practiced the same amount of astrology or studied the same number of books. I mean, I went years when my little ones were small where I don't think I picked up an astrology book. I still practiced, I still saw clients, and but it was like much like, lower volume, and the ebbs and flows of that, but the passion for it is what always kind of keeps, that story. That I think of astrology, I've called it like a love affair, right? Like because it's in many ways it's like my soul's love affair with something, and that if you feel that with like the basket weaving and the kubu and what you're creating there, like on that seems like a really great thing to cultivate, right? And that if it feels like a choice between that, the timing could be a factor too, where like when we were at the level, I can't remember which house class of Frank's we were in, but when he was looking at your chart and he said, I wonder if you, by like the time you hit, I want to say it was like 40, he was tracking it with like the nodal, I think maybe 48, that you might around that time, your basket weaving would be really solidified and grounded, and that you'd possibly be then ready to kind of take astrology or take that to another level, or like, you know, really kind of build in a different or bigger way with astrology at that point. But that there could be this nodal emphasis on the 10th house, North Node, Piscean, basket weaving creation. And then you end up going back to the astrology, or not necessarily going back, but, you know, cultivating that in a different way or integrating the two in some more significant way. I think that's an interesting thing to think about in light of what you're describing, or your possible crossroads that you're feeling right now from the play of the last few weeks, you know?
Yeah, and also though I don't know that it needs to be a crossroad, as far as I don't know that I have to choose one or the other.
Right. You're trying to
Because
process it. Yeah.
yeah, that's the whole Chiron's cave, right? The whole
Mhm.
centaur being dual
Mhm.
natured. And I
Mhm.
relate to that. These
Mhm.
are the two things that have come into view for me in this stage of my life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think it is just I'm processing, and also, you know, it's the ebbs and flows of the moon whipping around the wheel
Now that you
with
have an anima that's active and
yeah,
alive, you got
yeah.
to go, you got to get like, what is it called? You can get moody now.
Well, and you know, it could also be with the Mars thing, like it could be this high that I experienced with Mars and Virgo at the Mars return. And then now it's like it left Virgo, and now it's in Libra, and that's a whole nother thing.
So what is that? Like, how would you describe that? Like the high that then kind of fell, what was the high of, what were you feeling with that on the high note of Mars and Virgo and your Mars return? Was it like you were really the euphoria of the success and the kind of homecoming of your efforts and your production in the basket world? Is that what you were feeling? Was that
Well, astrology too, though. See,
with
like
astrology
it was like I
too?
was going to be able to have both
Oh,
professionally,
right.
right? Like it was like
Uh,
I'm killing both of these. I got this podcast. I took the ISAR exam. I'm like, I know I passed it. I'm going to be getting the notification soon, and I'm going to be a certified professional astrologer now, and like,
mhm,
and you know, killing the basket thing, and it's like doing both. And then it was like, no, you don't get to do both. You
mhm.
gotta, you know.
What, right. Or you
But
have
I
to think
do.
about doing both differently. It's like it just challenged, it created cognitive dissonance for
Yes.
how you're going to do both, and what that means and how that feels within you.
But the honest truth is that, like I said, before I got the result, I had already kind of decided, well, I'm pursuing the basket thing professionally, and like astrology is going to take a back seat to that.
Hmm. Yeah.